Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the DSG Report. I am your host, Jonah, and this show is just going to be about anything and everything DSG League of Legends. We've got a great first episode here today. We're talking about this most recent week, the opening of the LCS for 2026 Lock In. It was an awesome week filled with a bunch of great games, and the best part about it was that DSG came out with our first series win of the year. Absolutely wonderful for us to get that. I couldn't really be happier. I think if you compare it to last year, we'll get into all sorts of things about this series, next series, and just everything in between. But as for just immediate reactions, it was great. It took us so long last year to get our first series win. It wasn't until we completely overhauled the roster, and I was honestly nervous that this year might take a whole extra thing like that. But I really think that Ido, the coach, he just has some other mindset or just way of seeing the game that just works because we have just looked so much better ever since he became the coach, and being able to do it not just with the last roster we had, but with this roster, just even though it's just 1 week, is a really good sign. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I just want to get straight into talking about the games. So 2-1 win over Sentinels. This was really surprising to me, to be honest. I mean, not that I didn't think we could compete whatsoever, but if we just look at it from a very like a outside looking in perspective, I personally did not think we would be this good because if you look at my last video, you can see where I had everybody power ranked, and the players I had for disguised, I just didn't know enough about like the rookies, for example, like Sajed and especially Kisno. But even if it was Kryra, I didn't know enough about Kryra, and I didn't know enough about Call Me. So that's why a lot of them were low. I had them all in the bottom 10, which is clearly, they do not look like they're bottom 10 players for sure after the first week. We'll see. I can't for sure say they aren't, but they definitely look better than that going into the second week of the league. But, and then Castle and Lions, I had Lions actually in the bottom 30 as well, but that's just because I guess I didn't have as much faith in him. Maybe I should have had him higher. That was debatable, but I had Castle in the top. Uh, I think he was like 23rd or something like that. So he was our one shining star. And the funny thing is, if you had told me that Castle would have a bad series, which we'll get into that a little bit later, then I would have been like, man, there's no hope for us. But he did, and we still won. So just looking into it, we did not have the highest, like in my mind, strength roster, and I thought that that would be difficult for the rookies to kind of integrate into. But I mean, just going into this series, I think that Sentinels was a not a massive favorite. I didn't have them like rated. I had them rated technically just one spot above DSG, but it was like a tier above. So, but I definitely did not expect it to look like it did. So yeah, so no more wasting time about this situation. Let's get into the game. Game one was already better. It just felt better. Even though we had the two early deaths, you could tell Sajid and Lions came to play, even against what I thought was a pretty decent bot lane and Rahel Huhi, because immediately early game, they're just putting pressure on them. And this was really impressive coming out from Sajid. I did not expect, and this is not like I thought he was a bad thing. This is just, I didn't expect a rookie to come into a new environment and just completely own it, to be fair. They came in, they completely dominated the lane, and with some other stuff that happened throughout the like in top, Castle dying. I think he died solo in game one. I don't think it was a gank in game one. Even if it was, he died. He died twice, in like lane phase earlier game, and then and then our mid laner died. Call me. I need to remember that. Call me died also to Darkwings in the mid lane. That was a gank for sure. So even with that stuff happening around the map, it was still going well in bot lane. And yeah, I think that um, really the only thing I can say is that Kisno looked like he needed to get to the speed of the game. It did seem like he was a little outpaced, which at first had me worried that he might be like a little bit slow. But over time, he definitely over the rest of the series, he definitely looked a lot better. But yeah, in this game, he definitely looked a little bit slow. Our castle didn't start out that well, and obviously, Call Me started out dying to a gank. But the shining spot was the bot lane where Sajid playing the Kaisa and Lions playing the Nico actually did dominate the lane on the champs that you should dominate a lane with. Nico is 100% a lane dominant support, and they did exactly that. So that was the beginning. In the middle of the game, I thought that I was impressed because we didn't just look like we weren't doing anything. It was a bit of a scrappy game. There was just fights kind of going on everywhere, but we definitely rocked up to the fights and we were not afraid to send it, which was a good sign to me because last year, I think when we didn't know what we were doing, it was a little bit like, what do we do? And a little bit just like do nothing and lose. But this first game, it was like we were willing to fight, and we took a lot of good opportunities. And Kisno on the Pantheon was willing to send it a few times. Lions. I think the only reason we didn't kind of start pulling away was because Sajid couldn't really get into the fights as much as he should have, and I can't tell if that's a problem with him or a problem with the rest of the team. But overall, I don't mind the fact that we're playing fast. I think it's good when you see a team with like good carries, or at least I mean, based on what we saw, they look like good carries, and just trying to play fast, just trying to play to punish opponent mistakes, trying to make plays, things like that. I think that's a great sign, especially compared to a team like we started with last year, who didn't really do anything. Were just losing all their lanes and ended up losing every single game for the most part. So yeah, so that was positive. The only negative thing I have to say about this game, because even like into late game, we were still leading. We started to actually kind of create a lead. It looked like we were going to run away with the game, but even into late game, the only thing we did was just have a hard time ending the game versus Azir. I'm not the smartest League of Legends player, but I think that was the problem. We just had a hard time with the kind of champs we had. I think it's harder for Kaisa to get hits onto the tower, and I don't remember. Let me see. What was Call Me playing? It's harder for Kaisa for sure. And Call Me was playing Talia. So that against, yeah, that definitely is difficult to do against an Azir, guarding those waves. So we had a little bit of problems ending the game in that regard. But I mean, overall, it was like, I think that's really the only negative thing you can take, and that can be taught, which is a benefit. I think it's a good sign. The first game, even though we threw, and you don't want to throw, and it's especially compared to last year where we couldn't lose games like this, like we couldn't risk losing a game like this because like we had such a thin margin before the third split where we looked a lot better. Um, I think that this team, you obviously don't want to be throwing games, but I think you can excuse it because they looked like they looked like they were able to get into a winning position at least in this series every single game, and so that's a benefit. So yeah, so that was game one. Sucked to lose that one, but it wasn't the end of the world. We definitely didn't play poorly. I mean, actually, I think the game quality wasn't that high, but I think Sajed played pretty well. I think the rest of the team looked not even just LCS level, but like they could be kind of decent in the LCS. And so, yeah, so that was game one. Game two, on the other hand, I'm trying to remember what happened in game two exactly. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This was the game where I was watching Jat and Vedius's their like show that they do, and they were talking about how Rahel was like pick me dominant lane because I'm mad at Sajed and Lions for dominating me game one, and it definitely looked like that because it was Rahel and Huhi playing Lucian Nami, super aggro, and they had Hambak who was playing, I believe. Yeah, Hambak was playing Vi. I'm looking at the stats right here, and they were just sending it on the bot lane. And actually, I think the bot lane played pretty well. They got set back pretty far, but it's hard to do when you're getting camped. The good thing was though is that Darkwings, who had actually played pretty well in the game before on the Azir, was willing to be a good friend, and he helped us out, giving us some kills here and there. So overall, like it wasn't that big of a deal that Sajed got set behind. And even I think the most impressive thing I saw from Sajed was this game because even though he did get set behind, that was not like he was not out of the game. He had a big impact on this game. His KDA, which obviously KDA isn't everything, but his KDA was still 7-2-11 on that game. Compared to Rahel, who was 6-5-7. I mean, when you have a lane that was that significant, I think it was like a 60, like a 40 to 60 CS lead. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a big lead and very a lot of focus down in that bot lane. But he didn't even care, and so I just can't say enough about how impressive, even just through the first two games. Even though the first one we lost, and the second one there was times where it looked like we lose, and there's times where he was pretty far behind. I cannot express how positive the things we're seeing from Sajed are, and how kind of shocked I was just to see them from a rookie, and just in general. I mean, I would be impressed to see that from a rookie playing for TL or playing for C9 right now. And it came from a rookie playing on DSG. So I was just super impressed. But yeah, so game 2, trying to remember. Oh yeah, Castle had a much better game this game. Impact still had a impact, but I think Castle's find on Rahel in that last fight that ended the game pretty much. He essentially won the game by finding the ult onto Rahel. And yeah, I mean I'm trying to think about what else to say about this one. I mean, oh, Call Me, pretty good. He looks pretty solid. Like, I mean, it's only one series, and it didn't look like Sen was the most coordinated team, but compared to where I had Call Me ranked, I think he definitely played better than, I think he was at the 33rd spot. He definitely played better than the 33rd best player in the LCS. We'll see. Maybe I'll do like a mid season power rankings, or maybe an end of regular season power rankings, just to see like where the teams are and where the players are. And hopefully it looks like we'll be in playoffs by that point. But yeah, Call Me, game 2, he was on the Aurora, and he looked really solid. He was making plays. He made, I think, a gank on the bot lane, where he got a kill on the support, which was really big for them. So yeah, I mean, Call Me looked really good. Even in game 1, he didn't look bad. He did die to an early gank, but he wasn't out of the game by any means. So yeah, so through the first two games, we were looking, and oh, in this game we got a lead, and we didn't. It was kind of tense, because when you lose a first game by throwing, it makes it feel more tense until you actually end the game in the second game. So I think we had, I don't know, I don't remember, was it that significant? Yeah, we ended up having a pretty significant kill and gold lead by the end of the game, but because we had thrown that first game, it still felt really awkward. And uh, the fact that they didn't have an Azir, you know, clearing waves in the same way that they did in the first game, I think it made it easier for us to end that one. But yeah, so that one, and uh, Kisno, I made a note about Kisno in the short I released right after they won. Kisno looked LCS level, especially in this game. He found the weak link on that in that game, which was Darkwings, unfortunately for Sentinels, and he just went at him. Repeated ganks, just made his life miserable, completely took him out of the game. Darkwings actually played the fights not too bad with some of his ults and some of his stuff. He didn't play perfectly by any means, but he was so far behind that it was really hard for him to have an impact, and that was really because of the stuff that Call Me and Kisno were able to do. Now, I know Kryra's supposed to come back. I don't know when he's supposed to come back. If he comes back soon, then it was great by Kisno just the 1 week. If he doesn't, then I actually don't mind. I think Kisno looks like he's LCS level, and I think with practice time, if he needs it, I think he'll just get better. So I'm not mad. I do want Kryra, because I think Kryra has some more upside from what I've heard. But yeah, Kisno's definitely not a bad player by any means. So that was game 2. A great win. Uh, it was still tense, but we found a way to win. And then that led to game 3, and game 3 was actually pretty close for the majority of the game. I was rewatching it just to make sure I knew what happened, because the games happened on Saturday, and when I'm recording this, it's been a little bit, but it was actually pretty close going into the 20-minute mark. It was close in goal. Well, actually, it wasn't that close in gold, but it was close in kills. Maybe like a 3K gold lead, which is pretty significant at 20 minutes, but not like terrible. But yeah, I mean, the okay, so from the very beginning, I honestly thought that our draft felt a little disconnected. I mean, to be fair, I'm not an expert by any means, but having a collie and a bard just at any time feels a little awkward to me. Um, just because I guess it doesn't feel as standard, but they looked really good with it. I mean, early game, I think it was Sentinels who went for some sort of dive gank or something like that. It went completely terribly, and Sajed was able to get an early kill onto Rahel. I thought that was a massive tilter for Rahel. If I was Rahel and that was my solo queue game, I would just be completely out of it. Like, just like FF, like, get me out of this game. It's over. And it definitely looked pretty bad for them. And it was great for Sajed because, I mean, at that point, if I'm Sajed, I'm like, dude, I just won the whole lane, and their whole attempts to try to put me down and get this Aphelios ahead have just gone completely awry. And now we're like completely locked in and we're going to do great. So that was a really big play to start. And from that point on, I think you could feel the snowball of the game moving, even if by the 20-minute mark it wasn't a massive lead. So yeah, I think Castle did get beat up a little bit, but he did get counterpicked pretty hard with the Mordekaiser into Scion. That's when it impacts Staples. It just didn't end up mattering that much. Mordekaiser just, oh no, uh, Scion gets a lot of stuff, even if he's losing. He's still super useful. Castle didn't play him poorly. So it wasn't the most flashy series from Castle, but when you have a carry like Sajid and you have a carry like Call Me, who did everything they needed to and they looked great, you really can't ask for anything more. And Castle just did his job, which is great. I was worried, if you look back to that power ranking video I did, I was worried that Castle would just have to be carrying every single game. Excuse me, because we didn't know what the other players could do, but it was by no means like that. Castle was a participant on a team, which is wonderful to see to start the year. I thought we might have to scale into that. It looked from the very beginning like this is a team that Castle can actually just be a player on, a role player on, as opposed to like needing to be like a do or die kind of player like he was early last season. So yeah, so even though he struggled in lane because the lane is pretty hard for Cat or for Scion there, he didn't look bad at all. And Call Me on the Akali uh looked like he had the right mindset to play that kind of champ. He was hunting for extra kills. He made Darkwing's life so bad, especially in that third game. I think he definitely got him back for the struggles of the first game. And yeah, I mean, Call Me looked like by all means like a LCS level. The question is now, can he compete at the top 3, top 4 mid laner level? Because I think he won 2 of 3 against Darkwings. I think Darkwings definitely gets the credit for winning that first one, and I think Call Me definitely gets the credit for the next 2. So yeah, even if there's like a lot of jungle involvement, I mean that always happens. It's League of Legends, so I'm trying to think about what else. Oh yeah, but then the CS. So I think the game one would be a little bit more worrying if game three and two didn't happen, because if you lose game two, then you're like, oh, this team is like definitely looks better, but they just can't end a game. But then you win game two, and you're like, okay, this team looks better and they can end a game, but it looks really difficult for them to end a game, and it looks like they have a hard time playing like with a lead, as opposed to like playing the late game. But this last game was like they got a lead, they maintained their lead, and they ended up winning at the end. And the way they won in that last fight in this game, where Sajed, I think they were down Call Me. Call Me had died. He got picked out, or I don't exactly remember exactly how he died, but he was dead. And so they walk up four. I don't know if it was 4v4 or 4v5, but they walk up and uneven numbers. But they like the fight starts because Sentinels wants to go when the uneven numbers are there. They get engaged on and they try to go and kill. I don't know if they went to go kill Lions or Sajed, but it just didn't work at all. Sajed just uh, completely ran. I think he was completely damaging Impact down, and then um, Humbach tries to ult onto him with Jarvan, and he just flashes right out of that and just kills the next guy, and then just he's just doing a ton of stuff in that fight, and it just looked awesome because that's stuff you expect to see from a player like Rahel or from a player like Yeon or from a player like Berserker. Like those kind of carry performances, the forward flash into the other team and doing all damage and living. I mean, that's just super impressive. So yeah, it was great to see. I mean, I think DSG should have won all three games, and the fact that you could say that and they actually won two of them feels great because there were games that DSG should have won last year that they just didn't win, and there were games that you felt like they shouldn't have won that they did. So it just kind of felt weird. But this, like so far, just with this one series, it feels like two games that they ended up winning, they 100% deserved to win, even if it wasn't the cleanest gameplay. And then the one game they lost, they definitely played well enough to win. They just kind of folded at the end, and they probably can. The good thing is you can practice how to end a game. Um, the difficult thing is how to get to that position. So great stuff. Overall, I mean, this last week against Sentinels, I did not expect to win, and I definitely didn't expect to feel so positive about the rest of even just this split. Like this changes my mindset for what we can do this split, and it might be unhealthy. It's probably not unhealthy, but it might just be a little bit too high expectations. But I mean, we're thinking like we'll talk about our next opponent, but now instead of thinking, okay, can we make playoffs instead of finishing seventh, eighth? Now we're thinking like, hey, can we make top four? Hey, what? How good can this team be? Because Lions looked good. Sajid Call Me looked totally good. Um, Kisno looks solid. You're wondering, hey, is Kryra gonna look even better? Is Kryra gonna look about the same? What's it gonna happen? Because this team wanted to play around Kryra, so now it's like, what is even gonna happen when he comes back? Castle looks great. I mean, he didn't have a great first game by any means, and he had some tough moments, but still looks like Castle. He had some of those kinds of games. Now that he can actually have that game and the team doesn't just automatically lose is a great sign. So yeah. So as for last week, it just changed expectations, and definitely for the rest of the and definitely for the rest of the year, this changes expectations because now you're wondering. I mean, I know it's just 1 week, but now you're wondering, hey, if this team can be competing for top six all year, then what does that mean for the end of the year, or what does that mean for spring split? So, hey, I mean, just uh, you know, sucking in that hopium, but who knows? Who knows what could happen? Uh, yeah, so that's why this week was so awesome and was definitely not what I was expecting at all. But this week isn't the only thing that there is. There's also next week where we have, I believe, a tougher opponent in FlyQuest. Yes, FlyQuest is 100% in my mind a tougher opponent, even though I had in like my preseason rankings, I'm starting to like go away from that because you're starting to see the way teams play. Like immediately you can just tell things are different than just preseason thoughts. And against Shopify, FlyQuest looked really good. Um, Now I'm wondering how good Shopify is going to be, but if I just had to go based on, let's just say Shopify is an average team, then FlyQuest kind of made fun of them. In the first game, it was a bit more of a scrap and they fell behind, but they ended up winning. And then through like their hands and through fighting and through all that kind of stuff. Second game, just random. And there was a couple moments where they could have made mistakes and could have thrown, and they did make some mistakes for sure, but they looked like a young team and they still just won. Like they still just won through fighting, won through doing the kind of like basics of league, which is good. Because if like for FlyQuest, it's bad for us, but I mean that doesn't mean I think we can. I don't think we can beat them, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, for them, it's like good to see that their players are able to win fights through like their mechanics, and they're able to do the basics of league, which is like, hey, we have a lead. It's 25 minutes. Baron is up for the second, or even if it's just the first time. Baron's up. Let's go to Baron. We're gonna start it, draw them in. We're going to engage onto them, get a pick, go back to Baron, start it again. If they come back, we're going to get another pick. If they don't, we're just going to finish. It's like that's just league basics. Like I try to do that with my like teammates in solo queue, and they're all terrible, and I'm terrible too sometimes. So we all mess it up. But for a pro team, that's just good basic stuff to be able to have and to be able to execute, which they did. So that's the team we're playing against, FlyQuest. It's weird that in the upper bracket in a if you told me the two 1-0 games or the four if you asked me who I thought the four teams would be playing in the 1-0 bracket and you told me it would be C9 and Lion, I would have been like, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. FlyQuest, I would have been like, okay, I can see that for sure. I mean, they definitely can beat Shopify. And then you told me DSG, I'd be like, oh, snap. I'd be like, that's a bit surprising, but hey, I'll take it. So yeah, let's look forward to this. Let's just go straight matchup for matchup. What do I think about each matchup? Castle, Gatkos. I feel like that's pretty even. I feel like it could lean a little bit Castle. It could lean a little bit. I feel like Castle has some better days and some worse days. So we'll see. Gatkos actually looked like he was pretty strong into Fudge. And I think Fudge in the past seemed like a pretty good laner. So we'll see. I definitely don't think it's like, oh, super Castle favorite or super Gatghost favorite, but I definitely think it's a matchup that Castle could win if he plays definitely one of his better series. Like if he plays like he did against Impact, I think he'll probably have the same impact, uh, no pun intended, where he's like not good in lane per se, but then effective later in the game. If he plays better, like he has in some of his stronger performances, he could probably put Gatgos down and have more carry potential in the games. For jungle, this is the one that I'm a little bit worried about because Griffin looks pretty good. Not that Kisno didn't look good. He definitely looked like he could keep pace, especially after the first game. Excuse me again. But I don't think that I think that Griffin has a really quick, like he seems like he's fast. He wants to play the game fast. And our team seems willing to do that. But especially if Cryo were to come in and start like this week, I don't know if I necessarily trust like him being thrown in and like all that kind of stuff. And if it is Kisno, then I mean that's better. But I guess I would trust. I think I trust Griffin a little bit more. And I don't know. Maybe that's just the aura. But who knows? I definitely don't think Kisno is like completely put down. It's not like a Blabber or an Inspired or like that kind of player where I think it's like the jungle gap is going to be massive by any means. So I think he can compete. So it's not like game losing by any means. Call me into quad. After this week, I think Call Me is 100% capable of competing with quad, which I think is a great thing because I had no idea what he was capable of in the previous week. Um, so that matchup, I would say even, maybe a little bit quad favored. Um, we'll see. I think the thing is, I want to say things are more DSG favored. I want to say that, but even after a really positive week, I can't like completely abandon some of my preseason thoughts. Um, if they do, like, if these three players, Castle and, well, it would really be Gatghost because I was more sure about Castle. But if Kisno or Kryra and then Call Me and Sajed and Lions are to look really solid, then especially in this series, one series, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, like that kind of thing, where one series of good play is like, okay, like good, I can see that it's possible. Two series of good play is like, okay, now I can see that it's maybe who you are, like on the basic level. And so that's what I'm starting to think of for maybe that's what we're hoping for with DSG. And so yeah, so into the bot lane matchup, definitely think it's Masu favored. Sajed is his successor in the Challenger League, so it'll be really interesting to see. I want to see that matchup. It'll be fun. I do think Masu's experience and just the way they looked against the Shopify bot lane, I think he definitely has the advantage just coming in. Now, does that mean I think Sajed can't put him in the dirt if he plays as well as he did last week? 100%. I think it will be harder because I think Masu is a better player than Rahel is, though. So we'll see. And then in support, I think Lions look pretty solid. As an engage, or no, I'm trying to remember what games did he play. On the Bard, he looked great. On the on the Rakan, he looked really solid. And then on the Nico, they dominated lane. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see. I think Cryogen looked really hands good. We'll see if he looks hands good again this week. So I would say I would probably go because of experience. I would say Lions favored as you get into like the late game and stuff like that. So that would overall put, I would say, I think that puts FlyQuest at 3 out of 5 roles with jungle, mid, and bot, and then because I'm going based off experience because I think the players are all hands wise just after one series this year. Hands wise, it seems like it's a very even, like DSG has good hands players and FlyQuest has really solid hands players, and so this is actually a really exciting matchup. I think the difference is, can Quad and Masu put the DSG carries in a tougher position than um, Darkwings and Rahel were able to? Because I think Quad and Masu is a stronger mid bot like pairing compared to the DSG pairing. If they can't, then I do think DSG can do the exact same thing where I think the top lane just will be solid, the support will be solid, jungle will be just enough. But if they but if they can't, then that's what I think will happen. But if they can, then I think that then you'll see FlyQuest probably control most of the games and uh, be able to walk up to fights in the late game with like leads and stuff like that. And it's gonna be hard to win. So yeah, so there's that. If I had to give a prediction, I am biased and I'm trying not to be. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go with the bias. I'm gonna go disguise 2-1. I think that Sajed looks like he's more than enough to carry late games, even against talented players, because I think Rahel's talented. I think Lions look experienced enough, and I think I actually undervalued him. And so I would say I think you can trust Lions to win a series. And then Call Me looked like he could compete with the top mid laners. I know Darkwings isn't a top mid laner, but Call Me definitely put him into the dirt in the second and third game for the most part. The only question mark I really have is the jungle because I think Kisno Kryra just feels way more uncertain than Griffin. Um, and that's really what would make me lean towards FlyQuest if I was choosing, if I wanted to go in that direction. But I'm going to say that whoever it is, Kisna or Kryra, they're solid enough at playing a role that it gives the chance for our carries to get into late game and use some of those hands to do the right things, and lets Lions and Castle be experienced players who are in kind of not tank but like game shaping roles, not carry roles, like leader roles as opposed to like a Scion and a Rakan or something like that, that are able to just influence the game in general as opposed to influence through like carrying. So we'll see. Super exciting matchup. The fact that we could realistically, I think it's not out of the question that based on last week's results, we could 100% be in the 2-0 bracket. Where I mean, that would be a whole. If we're in the 2-0 bracket next week, um, I will definitely be like mind blown compared to my expectations for the beginning of the split. So yeah, so my prediction is 2-1 DSG. If you have any thoughts about that, like let me know in the comments. Do you think FlyQuest is just so much better? Did you really like what they shown? Do you think DSG looks like we're a team that'll be able to compete for like top 3, top 4, like maybe a title down the road, stuff like that? The one thing I can say is just LCS and Riot need to do something about this guest spot because at the end of the year, if nothing changes, we are going to lose Sajed and probably Call Me and probably Lions and probably Castle and probably whoever plays jungle if it keeps at this rate, because we can't maintain anybody through our spot unless they're just super loyal, which would be awesome. But players have to do what's best for themselves. So LCS and Riot need to do something about the way the guest slot operates because it puts us at such a disadvantage. But it is awesome to see that we have such a great, like from Toast, who just cares about his team, to the managers and to the coaching. Just, I mean, Ido, who clearly have some sort of system that has switched since summer split of last year that is helping us to be a great team. So yeah, let me know down below what are your predictions for this week. Who was your most impressive player? If you had to pick a player of the week from this most recent week, who would it be? If it was me, I would definitely choose Sajid. He looked great even in the game where he was behind. In the games we lost, or in the game we lost, he looked great. In the game where he was super behind, he looked great. In the game he got to carry just super easily, he looked great. So I just, and you can't say anything else. Definitely runner up would be Call Me or Lions. Both played well. What are your expectations for the split? Have you changed? Are you like, hey, maybe we can make top four? Hey, maybe we can compete to go into that 2/3 and try to compete at that America's tournament thing? Or are you still reserved, like, hey, like it was just one win against the Sentinels team that we don't know how good it was? We're probably still seventh, eighth, or probably still sixth, something like that. Or are you somewhere in the middle? You're like, hey, I think this shows a lot of good stuff, but I'm not ready to fully commit to them being a totally different team than I thought. And you're like, maybe we'll finish like fifth or sixth. Let me know. Um, Super excited. Go DSG. Subscribe if you want to see more. Like the video if you want to see more DSG content. I'm super excited about making content for this team. I just decided that I wanted to, like, I wasn't getting enough disguise content, and so I was like, I gotta make some. So yeah. So that's everything for us today here on the DSG report. Um, Make sure to tune in next week. I don't know what the weekly schedule for this will be. I know I want to upload one of these every week where I talk about the most recent week's games and the next week's games. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. And yeah, you guys have a good day. I'll see you.